My name's David Bennett. I'm a research assistant working for Sarah Watley over here in the ICE building, working on a collaborative project with University of Surrey on the Digital Dance Archives project. And that brings together a number of collections, one of which is the Siobhan Davies replay, which is the digital dance archive that Coventry University led on in conjunction with the company. That completed in 2009, and then some collections down in Surrey where they have the National Resource Centre for Dance, and they have some more historical collections, physical archives, and we're looking at creating a search portal so that you can search across these collections. In addition, the computer science people down in Surrey are working on visual search technology, which they have been, that technology has been around for quite a while, but nothing's been done on the moving body. So one of the really new researchable outcomes of the project will be visual search on the moving body. And then the element that we're particularly focusing on here at Coventry is what we're calling the virtual scrapbooking tool, which builds on something that's within the Siobhan Davies archive at the moment, where as users take their journey through the archive, the online archive, they're able to save items within a personal scrapbook area. At the moment, the current functionality is a bit limited in what you can do with that. So with the DDA project, we're looking at other ways in which the user can be engaged with while they're using these online resources, which basically is building on a lot of the sort of Web 2 technologies, but also just being able to do really have this private area, almost like a play area, rather than this sort of fairly fixed way of engaging with an online presence. So that's the project. In some of the issues, what we found, the experience that we found with the Siobhan Davies replay, which is the first dance online archive, certainly in the UK, we think maybe the world. But what we found is that users, now that they have access to content, first and foremost, that is what users, certainly within dance community, they just want able to have access to content, because it's the only, dance is not documented in the way that, say, theatre and music are, where you have written texts or scripts. So the only way you, in the main, the way you experience the dance is through recorded performances. So content has been the main thrust. But now that they have content, and the archive has been running now for a year, some recent studies that we've been doing about how people are using the archive is that actually people don't really understand how to use the archive. And so there's a big desire to have some sort of, how do we use it? And right from the very beginning, the project didn't want to be didactic, didn't want to say, this is what you must do. So that pathway was never given. And what we're hoping with, certainly within the DDA project, the Digital Dance Archives project, is that with using tools like visual search, you can come across some unexpected connections between historical dance and current dance, contemporary dance. And also with some of the virtual scrapbooking tools, users can make their own connections with annotating video, with making little post-it notes within their scrapbook. So then they can reorganise the material in more imaginative ways rather than just straightforward standard grids and that sort of thing. So we're just looking at different ways users engage with the online presence. Some of this work is being informed by the notion of, rather than usability, we're talking about user experience, because it's about how something quite interesting came across, the notion of user experience, that software as interface is fairly functional, but the beauty of the web is that it's a hypertext environment, which means that you don't go through linear, you can make various jumping off points. And the way you organise your information is very different to perhaps conventional websites or conventional means of documenting. So that highlighted an interesting way of, and certainly in terms of an archive, when you're talking online archive, that difference from the physical to the online opens out very different experiences for the user. And therefore, some of the cataloguing that in a traditional archive may not be wholly appropriate to the online presence. During the course of the past few months, we have been engaging with users to try and understand what those user needs are. And it's quite interesting how the different, you try and make something appealing to as wide a community as possible, but of course each community users has different needs. And what we found is that certainly within sort of teaching, it tends to be they want to go breadth. They want to have access to a broad range of material, but not necessarily huge amounts of it, but just in terms of length of production. They just want to be able to illustrative clips, really, of the type of works amongst a number of makers. But then you got the scholar who wants to drill quite deeply. So they've been, that notion of really being able to analyse quite a depth of a single work, maybe. And then we've been talking to practitioners, actual dance artists, and how they would engage with an archive. And there were a couple of barriers in terms of, the work doesn't seem relevant to my way of working. But one particular quote I particularly liked was, artists are more interested in the source of the idea rather than the expression of the idea. So that, again, that's talking about triggers and stimulus. So, one at the beginning of a project, one wants to appeal to this wide community, across this broad, range of users. But of course, each set of users has a very particular set of needs, and so therefore that's a challenge in terms of trying to satisfy each of those needs. And it's being very clear what those needs are and what you're doing to satisfy those.